There's a moment, right before everything changes, where the world is still intact. You're standing in a hallway, the lights are low. Music from the party is still bleeding through the walls behind you, and the person standing in front of you is the same person who's been standing next to you for the last 20 years. Your best friend. And then you make a choice. One choice. And the world you built together just stops. This is the story of how I destroyed the most important relationship of my life. Not my marriage, not a business partnership, something worse, something irreplaceable. My best friend. I need to take you back, because this doesn't make sense without context. I met her when we were 8 years old, 3rd grade. She sat behind me in Mrs. Patterson's class and spent the entire first week kicking the back of my chair. Not hard, just enough to be annoying, just enough to make me turn around and say something. And once I turned around, that was it. We were inseparable. 20 years, 2 decades of every major moment running through the same channel. She was the first person I called when my father passed. I was the first person she called when she got into graduate school. She stood next to me at my brother's wedding. I held her hand through the worst breakup of her life. We were not romantic. I need you to understand that. In 20 years, there was never a moment, never a stolen glance that lingered too long, never an almost kiss at a party. She was family. She was the one constant. People would ask us all the time, "You two have really never," and we'd laugh, because it was absurd, because we'd built something better than that, something that doesn't break the way romance breaks. At least, that's what I believed. It was a charity gala. February. One of those events where everyone's dressed a little better than they need to be, drinking a little more than they should, pretending to care about the silent auction while really just networking. She'd invited me as her +1. She'd recently gone through a breakup, a bad one, and didn't want to show up alone. I said yes without thinking about it. That's what we did, we showed up for each other. The night was fine, good even. We ate overpriced chicken, we laughed at the speeches, we danced once badly because the DJ played something from middle school and it would have been wrong not to. And then the event ended, and we went back to her apartment because it was closer and I'd had too much champagne to drive. I'd stayed at her place 100 times, crashed on the couch, borrowed her spare toothbrush. It was normal. It was nothing. But that night, something was different. I can't tell you exactly what shifted. Maybe it was the way the apartment felt smaller than usual. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was the fact that she was still hurting from a breakup and I was lonely in a way I hadn't admitted to myself. We were sitting on her couch, talking about something, and then we weren't talking anymore. I won't give you the details, they don't matter. What matters is what came after. I woke up at 6:14 a.m. I know the exact time because I stared at her alarm clock for what felt like 10 minutes before I moved. She was still asleep, and in that silence, in that grey early morning light filtering through her curtains, I felt something I had never felt in her presence before. Dread. Not guilt. Not yet, that came later. That was something more primal. This was the feeling of knowing in your bones that you have just broken something that cannot be fixed. I got dressed in the dark. I didn't wake her. I drove home with the radio off, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. And I waited. She called around noon. Her voice was careful, like she was choosing every word before she said it. Hey. Hey. A long pause. The kind of pause that used to be comfortable between us. It wasn't comfortable anymore. So, last night. Yeah? Are we okay? And here is where I made my second mistake. Because instead of being honest, instead of saying I don't know or I'm scared, I said the worst possible thing. Of course we are. We tried. God, we tried. For the first 2 weeks, we texted like normal, sent each other memes, made plans for the following weekend. We were performing normalcy with the desperation of 2 people bailing water out of a sinking ship. But the ship was sinking. The first sign was the silences. We'd always been able to sit together in silence and have it mean nothing. Now the silence meant everything. Every quiet moment was filled with the ghost of that night. Every casual touch, a hand on a shoulder, a nudge during a movie, carried a charge it never had before. She started cancelling plans, not dramatically, not with any declaration, just small excuses that added up. I'm tired, work's been crazy, maybe next week. I told myself it was coincidence. I told myself we just needed time. I told myself that 20 years of friendship was stronger than one night of weakness. I was wrong. It was about 6 weeks later when she finally said what we were both thinking. We were at a coffee shop, neutral territory. She'd suggested it, which should have told me everything I needed to know. She stirred her coffee for a long time before she spoke. I don't know how to be around you anymore. The words landed like a physical blow. Because she wasn't angry. She wasn't accusatory, she was sad. Deeply, quietly, and irreversibly sad. Every time I look at you, she continued, I see that night, and I don't know how to unsee it. I don't know how to go back to what we were, and I've tried. I've tried so hard, but I can't. I opened my mouth to argue, to negotiate, to offer solutions, but what solution was there? You can't unring a bell, you can't unknow something. You can't take a 20-year friendship and surgically remove one night from it without leaving a wound. I think we need space. Space. The word that ends things while pretending not to. It's been months now, and the space she asked for has become permanent. I've sent a few texts, nothing heavy, just thinking of you messages, birthday wishes, a photo of something that reminded me of an old inside joke. She responds sometimes, short messages, polite, the kind of messages you'd send to a co-worker you vaguely like. And that's what kills me. Not anger, not a fight, not a dramatic blowout where things are said that can't be taken back, just a slow, quiet fading. The most important person in my life becoming a stranger, one unanswered text at a time. I've replayed that night 1,000 times. I've tried to identify the exact moment where I could have stopped it, where I could have said, we should get some sleep, or I'm going to call an Uber. Or I could have chosen 20 years of friendship over one moment of, what? Loneliness? Curiosity? Some buried feeling I'd never examined? But that's the cruelty of it. There was no villain in this story. No one was predatory. No one was manipulative. 2 people who loved each other, genuinely loved each other, made a choice together. And that choice was a grenade thrown into the center of everything they'd built. Here's what nobody tells you about losing your best friend. When you lose a romantic partner, the world understands. There are rituals for it. You're allowed to grieve publicly. People send flowers, they check on you, they give you time. When you lose your best friend, there's nothing. No ceremony, no acknowledgement. You just wake up one day and the person who knew you better than anyone on earth is gone. And nobody asks about it. Because to the rest of the world, it was just a friendship. Just a friendship. 20 years. Every secret, every fear, every late night phone call, every holiday, every crisis, every stupid, pointless, beautiful Tuesday afternoon spent doing nothing together. Just a friendship. I've thought about reaching out, really reaching out, showing up at her door and saying everything I should have said in that coffee shop, telling her that I'd rather have the awkwardness. I'd rather have the weird silences and the loaded glances and the elephant in every room than have nothing at all. But I know what she'd say, because I know her better than anyone. And she'd say what she already said. I don't know how to go back. And she's right. We can't go back. That's the thing about crossing a line. The line doesn't disappear. It just becomes a wall. So here I am, writing this down because I don't know where else to put it. I don't want sympathy. I don't want people telling me it'll get better or that time heals everything. Time doesn't heal this. Time just puts distance between you and the moment you ruined your own life. I want you to hear this story and think about the person in your life who means the most to you. The person you'd never risk losing. And I want you to understand you can lose them. Not through malice, not through betrayal in the traditional sense, but through a single moment of human weakness that rewrites everything that came before it. Some lines exist for a reason, and the tragedy isn't always in the crossing. Sometimes the tragedy is in discovering too late that you can never cross back. I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to really sit with it before you answer. Can a friendship survive this? Or once that line is crossed, is it gone forever? Was there ever a version of this where we came out the other side? Tell me in the comments, because I genuinely don't know anymore.